Story 1. If I know them or knew they were coming, I don't really like unannounced visits. Are you dropping by? Please send me a text first. Story 2. Oh my gosh. I'm only open if my best friend is bringing food or if I'm expecting a delivery. Otherwise, I'm peeking through the window first. Story 3. It depends on where I live. I lived in Dubai for about a year and in Abu Dhabi for around 5 years. When I was there, I didn't care who knocked. I would open the door. Who cares? But in Los Angeles, there are security cameras and questions. Story 4. If they shout, I'm not a robber. It disarms me immediately, and I know they're safe. Honestly, though, I have never not opened my door. Is that bad? Story 5. If I hear the knock, I will open the door. If my family hears the knock and informs me, I will open the door. Story 6. It's not 1965 anymore. The world is losing its sense of community. Nobody trusts each other anymore. We all look through the slits in our doors or our peephole glass. It's not your wife telling you that Jimmy is at the door while you're having dinner with your family and inviting him in for a plate, because he's your neighbor. It's who are you and what do you want? Great, we've been neighbors for 5 years? I don't care. Get lost. Story 7. When someone knocks on my door, I answer it. It is usually a neighborhood child looking for one of mine. If it is a solicitor, I tell them my landlord is frugal. It works every time. Story 8. I always keep my security door locked and have a camera. I will only open it if I know who is on the other side or want to have that interaction. Story 9. I didn't expect to see so many answers from people saying they would only open the door if they are expecting someone. I assumed it was normal to open the door if someone is there. Being a man might have something to do with my perspective. Story 10. My husband and I were driving to town when we saw a snake on the neighbor's lawn. He got out to warn the neighbor, who was about to pick up her daughter, and she was very grateful. Suddenly, her expression changed, and she ordered my husband inside her house. The snake was directly behind him, about to strike. She didn't know my husband well, but she brought him inside anyway. Story 11. I'm going to open it to see what they want, but they are not coming inside unless they are immediate family. The only time I will step out that door and leave my comfort zone is for food or an order from Amazon. Story 12. I always open a knock door, but I also have no problem closing the door on someone either. If a Jehovah's Witness comes by, I say, "Hail Satan, leave now," as I close the door. For a utility solicitor, I respond, "I manage my own utilities and get my own best rate. Try the neighbor next door," as I close the door. The best moment was when I caught them before they even knocked. One day, I was leaving for work and saw 2 people walking up my porch. I drove onto my lawn, rolled down the window, and yelled, "What are you selling?" They said, "New fiber optic internet in your area." I replied, "I already switched to a competitor. I don't want yours. Don't knock on my door, or my wife will be upset." Then I watched them leave my property before continuing on to work. Story 13. If I am expecting something, then yes, luckily I have a doorbell camera, so when it is Jehovah's Witnesses, I can just ignore them. Story 14. If they have a package in their hand and I know I've ordered something, I'm settling back and watching the camera until they leave. Story 15. I check the doorbell camera from another room before getting close to the door. We have a lot of solicitors, so it's a gamble every time the doorbell rings. Story 16. If I know the person or am expecting a delivery, I will open the door. However, if I do not recognize the person, I will not open the door. Story 17. I will answer. I am not afraid. However, if I am not expecting you, I will be in my period underwear and will probably have coffee spilled somewhere on me. Story 18. Never has there been unexpected good news on the other side of the door. That is why I only check my mail once a week. Consists only of garbage and bills. Story 19. Not going to happen. I installed a second security gate 4 feet back from the front door. I am tired of foolishness. Story 20. Decently sized town in Denmark. It is probably always safe, unless it is past midnight and I do not have reason to believe it is a family member, as they would likely call first. I have been here for 9 months, and we have only seen trick-or-treaters so far. Story 21. If I have made plans with someone to stop by, I will open the door. If we are family or close friends, I will open the door. Story 22. I'm not opening the door unless it's someone expected. Most of the time, those people let themselves in. If you're a stranger showing up at my door, I will pass. Story 23. I usually look at my camera first. If I know the person, I will open the door. If I do not know them, I will go out the side door with my dogs, staying inside the fence, and keep my distance until I determine what they want. Story 24. After I have questioned them through my Ring doorbell and determined it was worth speaking to them in person. Story 25. If I am expecting them, text first, people. All others can look at the no soliciting sign and go away. Delivery personnel can heed the leave on porch message. Story 26. I have a sign on my door, no soliciting. Yet a person pounded on my screen door with a knock. He ignored the doorbell and then sang hello through my window. Open the door? No way. Story 27. I leave the front door locked, exit through the back door while locking it behind me, and then walk around the house to the front, asking, "May I help you?" Story 28. If I'm expecting someone and that someone knocks, it's fine. However, if I'm not expecting anyone, why are you knocking on my door unannounced? I will call security to have you removed. Story 29. If I ordered food or I'm expecting a package delivery, I look through and see it's a friend I don't mind seeing. Story 30. I live in a pleasant country and do not have much fear. I would open my door whenever it is knocked, unless I saw something obviously dangerous. Story 31. If I know them or am expecting them, such as a delivery person or a contractor, I will answer. Otherwise, please go away. Story 32. I just opened it. There have been people looking for my deceased grandmother who didn't know she passed away, my neighbors dropping off a package, and the police conducting a welfare check on my husband. The only time you might get a "who's there" is if it's 2 a.m. or you're telling a joke. Story 33. I live on a farm in a semi-rural area, and if someone knocks on my door at night, I will only open it for a stranger when I am armed. Story 34. If I'm expecting someone or if it's my landlord, he sometimes pops in to chat. Anyone else raises my immediate suspicion because my building does not have locking doors on the street or alley. Story 35. I live in a neighborhood with either high school kids, there's a high school about 1 minute away from my house, or elderly people. It is not a very threatening neighborhood. Therefore, if I hear a knock at the door, I will always answer it unless I am not feeling very social. Story 36. If it is during daylight hours, I would just open the door. I have a doorbell that records visitors, so if it is nighttime, I would check the feed on my phone to see if I know them first. Story 37. I usually won't answer unless someone says hello and I recognize the voice, or if I knew they were coming, or their knock matches the pattern I am familiar with. You never know. A random knocker could be dangerous. Story 38. If I know them personally, I will open the door. If not, I will just run and tell my grandma that someone is here for her. Story 39. I almost always open my door. Sometimes I am empty-handed, sometimes with a battle axe, sometimes with a sword, and sometimes with a shotgun. Kind of depends on my mood. Story 40. I usually just open it. I only had one questionable person. Once he saw me looking down at him, he came up with a strange story and left. Story 41. Almost all conditions apply unless there is someone I genuinely cannot understand why they are present. Things I look for. For courier, very simple. B. Holding plants and asking, "Is your mom here?" C. A massive smile on their face. Otherwise, they can go away. Story 42. Boredom. I entertained Mormons while living in Arizona for about an hour because I was bored and had questions. Story 43. I don't get many visitors, so if someone decided to visit unannounced one day, I probably wouldn't mind. If it's a delivery, that's usually a good idea. If it's from religious groups, I would rather open the door and ask them to leave than have them keep knocking. They don't come by often, likely because I straight up tell them I'm an atheist and that the concept of God is a fairy tale, then close the door. Story 44. It depends on how angry I am. If I reach my limit and they are setting me up for a home invasion, they will be stuck here with me for a while. Story 45. I am 6 feet 3 inches tall and weigh 230 pounds. I have always opened the door. Over the years, I have welcomed some questionable individuals. I have encountered someone whose girlfriend was sleeping in my roommate's bed, and I have opened the door to intoxicated individuals at the wrong address. However, the people I dislike opening the door to are those asking for money. Yet I still open the door. Story 46. It really depends. If it is a reasonable time of day, assess the situation on the doorbell camera and decide whether it is safe to respond. Most of the time, I don't even acknowledge it. There is rarely a common scenario where I need to answer the door to someone. If it is at an odd time, there is absolutely no need to do so. Story 47. Depends on my mood. Sometimes, it is fun to interact with the Jehovah's Witnesses instead of hiding in the kitchen, as I was taught 30 years ago. Story 48. Am I expecting a package? Did you text me first? Are you the maintenance person or the landlady? If not, I won't open the door. I will watch through the peephole until you leave. Story 49. My entrance door consists of sliding glass doors leading to a glass sunroom. We locked the actual front door next to it when we moved in. The dogs in that room can bark at a late-night intruder before they even reach the door. Plus, I can see from the lounge who is there without them noticing. Story 50. Look, even if Jesus knocked on my door, I would probably still ask 20 questions with a gun in hand before opening the door. Oh yeah? You're Jesus? Well, looks at glass of water, turn this glass of water into horchata, and turn that bowl of ramen into the best macaroni and cheese I've ever had in my life, and I'll think about opening the door. Waits patiently. Story 51. I'm looking through the peephole quietly when I'm not expecting anyone. For the most part, the whole house goes silent until the people leave. Story 52. Even when I lived in a large city in the UK, I would have responded most of the time. Americans seem very apprehensive, considering the number of firearms they possess. Story 53. If I'm expecting someone to knock on my door, I usually tell people to just text me that they're here. For some reason, the sound of someone knocking on my door causes me pure anxiety. Story 54. I will look through the window to see who it is. Never open the door for a stranger unless it is your courier or pizza delivery person. Story 55. I live in a secure apartment building. If I am not expecting someone and have not buzzed anyone into the building, I will not answer the door. Story 56. If someone knocks on my door, it means they have made it over the fence and past the dog. This means they are either one of my children, my brother-in-law, or they are about to have a very unpleasant experience. Story 57. I do not answer unsolicited knocks or doorbells. If I am not expecting your arrival, please leave me alone. The same applies to phone calls. Story 58. I will ensure it is not restricted to religious individuals but will open it to anyone else. 245 kilograms dogs live inside and greet any guests at the front door. So there are no worries at all. I'm in Australia, so things are fairly calm here, even in the big cities for the most part. Story 59. Someone I know or someone I'm expecting. Otherwise, go away. We have multiple cameras around our house and on both of our cars that capture everything. My family has location sharing enabled, so I know when they are close enough to drop by and vice versa. Story 60. They better be wearing a jolly red suit with 8 reindeer standing behind them. Otherwise, the door will not open. Story 61. Just to inform the church members, Jehovah's Witnesses, and those door-to-door salespeople that I am only taking what I need. Story 62. Maybe if they have a gun or something, I think I have a slight death wish. Who knows? But stuff like that is exciting. If it's not odd, completely unexpected, and out of the ordinary, I'd prefer to not socialize with regular people. Story 63. I have a buzzer in my old Chicago apartment that sounds as loud as a car alarm indoors. I had someone come over in the morning for a meeting, and I forgot we were supposed to meet. I literally didn't answer, and he rang for 10 minutes. I even watched him leave because I hadn't seen him in a while, and he changed his hair. I had no idea it was him. Needless to say, I don't answer for anyone unless I know or remember they are coming, or if I have given permission to a delivery person. Story 64. The condition that would prompt me to open the door and find out who is on the other side. Story 65. If I actually know them or not, or if they are services like delivery or whatever, but random strangers are a no. Story 66. If it is a friend I know is coming or a delivery person, I will answer. If it is a stranger with a clipboard, they can go away. I will not be joining the Science of Happiness group or Jehovah's Witnesses. Story 67. If I am expecting them, I am in a top floor flat. If my buzzer rings unexpectedly, then it is not for me, so I will not bother answering. Story 68. Unannounced stranger? I would never open the door. Well, never seems too restrictive. I could be enticed to open the door for Beyoncé. Story 69. Easy examples. Open up, it's the Mormons. Now, open up, pizza delivery. Yes. Open up, it's the Mormon pizza delivery. Did you bring soda with that pizza? Story 70. If I know the person and there is an emergency where we specifically called for them, I did not even answer the door for the police when they found an abandoned car in front of our house and wanted to ask questions. I was 17 and home alone, but still. Story 71. My apartment building has a video intercom, so generally only people I expect will be buzzed in, or those holding a package who can identify it as a delivery for me. Even then, smaller packages can go in the delivery box. It's pretty rare that I would open the door for anyone else. It's not a safety concern. It's just that I prefer not to talk to strangers. Story 72. I would like to think you would just open it for me. I am a friendly neighborhood salesman, and I just want to present some products to you. Story 73. I need to be aware that the person is coming over. I don't like unexpected visitors. I am Bilbo Baggins, but I don't actually answer the door. Story 74. It's my crush. It's someone selling chocolate for their school. It's my former crush, but he has free chocolate for me. Story 75. When I know who it is and want them to come in, people in my circle understand not to arrive unannounced. Therefore, it is a rare occurrence for me to receive unwanted visitors. I am also armed at all times, so security is not a concern. In short, I value my privacy and personal time, so you should have a very good reason for being at my door. Story 76. If they didn't need to knock, they would be knocking. We don't get scammers or corrupt police here. It's usually a delivery service that can't just drop it. Story 77. If I'm already in my wheelchair, it's no hassle, or if I know them. Sometimes, not even when I know them, I might just shout, "The daughter isn't here," or "Come in." Story 78. It could be a parcel or something. I'm happy to inform a salesperson or charity fundraiser that I'm not interested. Story 79. If I don't know you and it's not the government about to break the door down, then there is a 0% chance. If I do know you but the visit is unannounced, it is still very close to 0. Story 80. If it's a relative, close friend, or neighbor I get along well with, or if it's DoorDash, please knock once or twice and text me so I know you're stopping by. Anyone else? Please go away. Story 81. I open the door anytime someone knocks. I am not peeking through a window and acting scared. I know that someone is always trying to hurt me. Story 82. I will always open my door, but whether I close it immediately or welcome you to stand on my property is the question. Story 83. Usually, I'll look out the window. If they make eye contact, I recognize them, or most importantly, if they have my dog with them, I will go open the door. Story 84. I have a gated and locked courtyard next to my front door. If I'm not expecting someone, I use it to tell them to go away. Story 85. I wait a few seconds for another knock and remember having ordered pizza. Otherwise, I let the dogs do their thing and convince the Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses to leave. Story 86. I moved in about 4 months ago. I always open the door. On the occasions I haven't been expecting someone, It's been a neighbor dropping off a present to welcome me to the street, or the postal worker delivering a parcel. Once, it was one of the tradespeople already on my property installing solar panels. I wasn't expecting a knock on the door because I thought I'd left it open. He had nothing to report. The installation was going smoothly. He wanted to know if he could borrow a fork to eat his packed lunch, as he had forgotten to bring one. Story 87. If I recognize them or if they are wearing a uniform, I still don't open the screen door until I have to. Story 88. I live in a dorm. If someone is knocking unannounced, it is either a student asking for something, a delivery, or dorm staff. Story 89. Pretty much when someone knocks and I can see who it is, I rarely lock my doors. I have lived all over the country, from small towns to big cities, and I have never had a problem. Story 91. If they called first and I agreed to their visit. If they are in a panic, I can help with situations such as a terrified person escaping violence, a car accident that occurred within my view. They are a child, Girl Guides, or rangers selling food. I am already about to walk out the door. They are a neighbor with whom I have a positive connection. I don't usually order food, but if I did, I would open the door for them. My mom is at my door for an emergency. Story 91. Your house is on fire. Even then, I would check first and call neighbors to see if they can see something unusual from their windows. Story 92. Only if I am expecting someone. I do not know why, but an unexpected knock on the door scares me so much. Story 93. I would only do that if it's the police with a warrant or an ambulance with identification verified. No one else is welcome near my front door without an appointment. Story 94. Do I know them? Were they expected? Are they clearly a delivery or mail? If not, the door stays shut. Story 95. Can I see who they are? Do I know who they are? Can I see their hands? Are their hands empty? Are they holding something that could hurt me? These factors influence my decision, but it's really the last one that matters most. You could be my best friend, and I wouldn't open the door if you were holding a weapon. Conversely, you could be a stranger with nothing in your hands, and I still wouldn't open the door. Story 96. If they look like they are going to shove a Bible in my face, the door will be firmly closed. Otherwise, I am happy to open the door. Story 97. Only if I am expecting them. If I am not expecting them, even if I know them, I will not answer. I have a door for my convenience, not for anyone else's. Story 98. I have lived in the same condominium building for the past 12 years, right next to the elevator, so I ignore any noise I hear from the hallway. If you want my attention, you had better knock on my door as if you are from a law enforcement agency or a bounty hunter. Story 99. I've never had this happen to me, but I would always open the door if I know the person, or at the very least, ask what's going on if I don't. I would assume it's some kind of emergency. Story 100. If they text me and say, I am here, otherwise I will let you sleep on the doorstep and step over you to go to work. Story 101. I will never open my door for a stranger under any circumstances. That being said, I got a Ring doorbell so I can ask random people what they want. Story 102. We always open the door. If it is a non-uniformed man, I wait until my husband is with me, and if it ever happens that he cannot be, I will talk to them through our doorbell and ask them to come back later. Story 103. I am expecting a visitor or a parcel. They are knocking hard enough that I think it is an emergency. I will look first before opening the door to see who it is. Story 104. I am quite lucky living in a flat on the first floor. I never really get any direct knocks on my door, and if I do, it is likely someone in the block who needs help. If someone comes unannounced, they have to hit the buzzer, and I can talk on the intercom to decide if I want to let them in. The last time someone knocked directly on my front door was when the man upstairs had a stroke and they needed my help to smash the door down. Story 105. Maybe if it's a package or food delivery, even then it's uncertain. Otherwise, I don't talk to strangers. No shame. I've seen the documentaries. Story 106.1. It is someone I am expecting. It is not someone I am expecting. but they have identified themselves and have a valid reason to need to speak with me. It is one of my immediate neighbors. Usually, if they are knocking, there has been a parcel mix-up, and I would rather deal with them face to face than give them my number. It is over 100 degrees Fahrenheit outside, and it is the children from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints again. I will not listen to their message, but during the summer, I will give them some water. Story 107. We have a completely fenced yard with the gate locked. Do not let anyone in who comes to the door. If someone jumps the fence and approaches the door, I would be cautious. Story 108. I check my door camera first. If I know the person, I will open the door. As long as they do not look like a threat and I do not recognize them as a salesperson, I will proceed to open the door. Story 109. If I am waiting for someone, it cannot be important enough if that person is someone I do not know. Story 110. If my cat is sitting calmly by the door, I swear she is better than any security system. She starts growling like a guard dog if something is off about the person on the other side. Story 111. This answer varies based on your location. If I were in my house in rural Pennsylvania, I would have no problem opening the door when someone knocks unannounced. However, if I were at my old place in Wilmington, whoever was on the other side of that door could go away. Story 112. If I know them or if they are wearing a uniform and threatening to kick the door in. Unfortunately, my address is 13 Pine Tree Lane and across town, in a dirty trailer park full of drug users. There is another 13 Pine Tree Lane Road, private. So the police show up often, looking for the other 13 Pine Tree Lane. Story 113. If I'm expecting a package, my wife rang the doorbell once, and I buzzed her in and walked away. 15 seconds later, I heard an unfamiliar hello. In my living room, it wasn't my wife at the door. I accidentally let in 2 Jehovah's Witnesses. Scary out there. Story 114. Never, because there are 3 large barking mastiffs blocking me from accessing it. If it's a solicitor, I will open my office window to tell them to leave instead. Story 115. If I accidentally open the door as they knocked, I have had close calls a few times. They can see me, but I still won't open up. It becomes a bit more awkward if I am taking out the trash and happen to open the door while they are knocking. Story 116. They better not. I have no soliciting, do not disturb, and no trespassing signs posted right at the doorbell. Some still have the audacity to knock and ring my doorbell, and I am not a nice person when I open that door. I always keep the security door in place when I yell. After the incident, I post the video on my social media. Neighbors, friends, and family know they are all welcome. Story 117. I reprimanded a frontier salesman for knocking on my window after he grew tired of no one answering the door 5 times that day. To answer the question, I'll open it to lightly deter unwanted guests. Story 118. I have a Ring doorbell that allows me to communicate with visitors. I also have measures in place to defend my home in case of a break-in. Story 119. If they're knocking at the door, are people really too afraid or too antisocial to open it? Story 120. I am old-fashioned. I open the door because not everyone can call ahead. Sometimes a neighbor needs a dog watched quickly or has an important question. Honestly, people who don't open the door often don't answer unknown numbers, which is frustrating. Why are people so scared these days? I grew up in an era when we didn't know who was calling our phones. We also ran to friends' houses and knocked on the door to see if we could play. Story 121. I just ensure they are not law enforcement officers. If you open a door and it is law enforcement, you will not close the door. Additionally, laws do not matter to law enforcement. They act as they wish, and you need a lawyer to pursue legal action. Story 122. If they have a clipboard, I will open it and say I am not in the mood to talk. If they are religious, I tell them I am Satan. Story 123. Are they holding a large check that reads Publishers Clearinghouse $1 million grand prize? If not, I'm hiding behind the sofa. Story 124. I am often the first person in the apartment complex to be notified when packages arrive. In my country, they are required to hand parcels to a person, although it doesn't always have to be the intended recipient. I manage the delivery of packages for the entire complex, and nobody knows I even exist. It is a burden I carry. Story 125. The only time I don't open it is when someone knocks on the outside walls and then the front door at 3 a.m. during a thunderstorm. Yes, this is quite specific, but it actually happened. It scared my dogs and fiancé. I called the police and they came to pick her up. Story 126. I will always open it. I see no reason not to. I do not often let anyone inside, but I will step out and talk to them. Story 127. I will only answer the door for friends or family members. Deliveries can be left by the door, and anyone else is just wasting time because I am not interested in what you have to say. Story 128. Every time I live in a 6-unit apartment, the only people who have access to my door are my neighbors. None of us enjoy visitors, so if someone is knocking, it is usually for a good reason. Story 129. As a flower delivery person, I have to say I dislike the lack of response from some recipients. I delivered bouquets to 70 different houses this past weekend for Mother's Day. Part of the joy of sending flowers on Mother's Day is the surprise of receiving them. The recipient doesn't know they are coming. I can't tell you how many times I knew people were home, yet they did not answer the door. And I understand. Asterisk, what religious group is at the door? Asterisk, what type of salesperson is it this time? Asterisk, what political candidate is it this time? I just wish there was a way to know who is at your door. Oh wait, security cameras. But no. Of the homes I visited where nobody answered the door, I'd say 80% of them had security cameras. Not a single person spoke to me through the camera. Nobody came to the door, even after they saw me on the security camera holding flowers. Why do people have these cameras, anyway? It was a bit hot this weekend, and we try not to leave the flowers on the doorstep in the heat. So, if nobody answers the door, we call the recipient to inform them about the delivery. If they will be gone for an extended period, we return the flowers to the shop to keep them in the cooler. Here's how it typically goes. 1. Knock and ring the doorbell. Wait 30 seconds. No answer. Knock and ring the doorbell again. Wait 30 seconds. No answer. Call the recipient with my cell phone. And then, oh, I'll be right out. You were home the whole time. Story 130. Only if they see me through the side window checking who is at my door. If I don't know who it is, I strategically look out the window like I'm in a James Bond movie. If they don't see me and I don't know them, I pretend I'm not home. If they catch me, I indulge and play the part of not being the homeowner or say that they need to speak with my husband. It's like a game. Story 131. I looked at my camera. I opened my door one time and was handcuffed and kidnapped by some individuals in a black and white SUV. Story 132. I live in a generally safe place, so I am not scared to open my door. However, if you reverse the question, it becomes a knock with no answer and doorbell spamming. When I say, "Who is it?" and they do not answer or keep ringing the doorbell, I will not answer the door. Story 133. I do not open the door for anyone that I do not know is coming beforehand. Especially since I have cameras, if I do not know you, I will not open the door. Story 134. Half the time, I won't open it for someone I know, let alone for someone I don't, or under any other conditions. Story 135. If you are expected, that is the only reason to come inside. I don't care if we have been friends for 20 years. If I don't know you are coming, you will not be allowed inside. Story 136. If you need to consider whether to open your door, I advise you to move to another place. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.